Hi friends, welcome to the Wild Side. I'm Steve Hall. Where were you when the sun stopped shining on that August day? The first total solar eclipse visible from much of the United States in almost 100 years was certainly one of the most anticipated events in my lifetime. Dozens of Tennessee state parks were in the path of totality. Now, I have to admit, here on the Wild Side, we didn't plan very much for it like a lot of other people. But after quickly and carefully analyzing all the options, we picked Port Royal.
Port Royal State Park seems the perfect place for those with or without a plan.
She was like, "What are you doing? Why is this so important?" And I was like, "Well, there's a total solar eclipse. Like, it hasn't happened in a really long time, and we might not ever see it again."
Never mind months and months of solar eclipse education.
So I started looking online and realizing I had waited way too long to plan for this. It was about a month ago. So I spent a couple of late nights looking for hotels and finally gave up, but lucked upon this park.
A strategic alignment of the stars, and a few hundred other people landed here as well.
I flew from Boston to New York to Detroit to Birmingham, and then I drove at like 8 o'clock last night to Nashville, slept in a Walmart parking lot in my car, and then I met up with these guys this morning, and then we drove here, and now I'm with them.
And this is where it's all about to happen. Port Royal Rangers planned ahead, knowing this was one of 18 state parks in the path of totality.
So I even told my wife when we drove in, I was like, "This is the most organized thing I've ever seen. Like, this is, they did a really good job." I'm pretty impressed by this, having the kids' activities and stuff. Like, I really think they did a fantastic job.
Hi.
Hello.
How are y'all? Nice shirt. Hey. How's it going? All right, 2 adults.
He's getting hot.
Let me give him some water. We're gonna give him a drink.
He's been drinking pretty good.
Yeah, it's hot out here. We're sweating, we're hot, so, you know, I pay attention to what the birds tell me.
Silverado, Cypress, and Shadow also landed at Port Royal and stayed perched in anticipation of the celestial event.
Bringing the birds is a great way to interact with all the visitors, to let them learn about the birds, to let them learn about the parks. Just something to do while we're waiting for the eclipse. But for me personally, since I have the birds, I'm interested to see how they react.
It's not something that I've researched or actually had any conversations with people, but I was wondering if there would be a reaction in the wildlife that we would not be able to really tune in with.
I think the hawk will hopefully think it's night and maybe even go to sleep. And the owls maybe even get more active and maybe just start talking. You know, we'll just wait and see.
I think it'll be a bit confusing for them, because this usually doesn't happen. It usually happens over like maybe 100 years. And so it might just be kind of changing for them.
1,800 years is slightly off the mark. To see another total solar eclipse in this exact spot, the average is more like 375 years. But at roughly 1:26 p.m., for a full 2 minutes and 32 seconds, it will be visible right here.
It's really spacious and beautiful. There's a river and it's bright out and there's no clouds. A lot of my friends that are in Kansas and Missouri that are technically in the path of totality can't see it right now because of the clouds in the sky.
What we begin to see is the first of 5 phases of the eclipse, where the moon lines up perfectly in front of the sun and looks a little like someone took a bite out of it.
Well, we've seen maybe 1/3 of it so far, and it's my first total eclipse, and so I think it's pretty cool. I think it's awesome.
And ever so slowly, with all eyes upward and everyone wearing funny-looking glasses, the moon continues to cover more and more of the sun. In phase 2, the sun is covered except for a beautiful ring, often referred to as Bailey's beads. And then the most anticipated and dramatic 3rd phase, when the moon completely covered the circle of the sun. The sky went dark, the temperature dropped, the birds were visibly still, and most everyone here was in complete awe.
The eclipse was awesome! It was like a big flower in the sky. Like a big sunflower, except it wasn't yellow, it was orange.
The 2 minutes seemed like only a few seconds, and then ever so slowly the moon moved away from the sun. In the fourth phase, shadows were much more distinct, and the activity resumed. Then, in the final phase, it ended, and the Earth kept turning.
Well, we're probably gonna explore the park for a while, and when we walk around, we'll go back to our cars and I think go home.
Those with or without a plan found a place here at Port Royal, where park personnel knew exactly what they were doing, seizing the opportunity to reach out to the next generation.
We don't want to lose that hands-on. We don't want them to never go out and experience nature. We don't want to be afraid of the woods and afraid of the water and afraid of the animals. So things like this is a chance to reinforce that hands-on experience with our natural world.
I think a lot of people like being in the outdoors.
If you miss this eclipse, it's not the end of the world. There will be another one in a few years, but you might have to travel to see it. I'm Ezekiel Noel Hall on the Wild Side.
The next total eclipse of the sun is projected for 2019 and will be visible from the South Pacific, Argentina, and Chile. Here in the United States, we've got to wait another 7 years, but hey, that's not as long as this last time, right? According to NASA, the totality will last as long as 4.5 minutes in some cases, and the diagonal path is from Texas to Maine. You might want to plan ahead. And you won't need special glasses to go to our website to get more information. That's wildsidetv.com.